Hello and welcome to another episode of Angel Talk. Today we have Lexie on the podcast with us.
Yay, what's up, you guys?
So I'm really excited about this topic today and to have Lexie on because she is a coach. She has 80 clients and she has heard all of these horror stories before. And I would just love to talk to her and get her take on them. And then Lexie is also going to share some of her own stories that she's heard.
Oh my gosh, yes. So for those of you guys who are joining, I am a suit stylist for Angel Competition Bikinis, but I am also a full-time coach for Team Pro Physique. And yeah, I've heard a lot of bad stories, coaching horror stories, unfortunately.
Yeah, so we do want to kind of preface with there are a lot of great coaches.
Oh, absolutely.
But there's also some horror stories that we have to share today and what to watch out for. So Lexie's going to kind of give you some tips on when you're picking a coach so that you don't fall into any of these.
Yeah, well, I think this will be like a really entertaining video, but I also think it can be very informative just for you guys listening to know what red flags are when it comes to finding a coach. Because honestly, I talk to a lot of first-time competitors that sometimes they don't even know that certain things are red flags when they are, right?
Yeah, some of these stories you guys are not going to believe. Like, I'm just like cringing, and I feel so bad for the girls that this has happened to.
Oh, okay. So we're just going to read these horror stories. And again, tell us where these were submitted from.
So these are submitted from some of Angel's followers and some of our customers and just regular athletes in the sport of bodybuilding.
And they're totally anonymous.
Yeah, they're totally anonymous. We aren't going to talk about any. So if you're just listening to hear us gossip about bad coaches, that's not what it's going to be. No. We're not going to name anyone.
Yeah, no, there's no names in these. They're completely anonymous.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and start with the first one. Do you want to read it, Lexie?
Okay, sure. I'm kind of scared. All right, horror story number 1. I had a coach who never asked me for any intake forms. Red flag. So he never knew how much I was eating, how many steps I was at, how much cardio I was doing, etc. prior to giving me my plan. We started a prep at 20 weeks out, and we started at 1,300 calories. I was starving. Starving is in all caps. I went back to see how much I was eating prior to starting with him. I was eating 2,100 calories. For my first check-in, I let him know that I was previously eating 2,100 calories, and he said that it didn't matter and that I needed to continue to trust the process. I ended up lasting 6 weeks and had dropped 10 pounds, but then ended up having a huge binge with foods I normally don't eat, 15 pounds in 2 weeks, and had to pull out from my show. Honestly, I always tell people the biggest red flag that you will find in a coach is if they don't ask for information from you before signing up. If they send you your plan without you giving them a ton of information, that's a huge red flag.
Yeah.
And that's, in my opinion, that means you're probably getting a cookie cutter approach. Also, I think that if a coach does not ask to talk to you on the phone before you sign up, to me, that's a big red flag. Yeah, I mean, that's a sad story. I mean, but I've seen it and I've heard of it happening before.
So everyone's metabolisms are so different. So the fact that a coach doesn't ask you or isn't even curious about where you're currently at, that's a huge red flag.
It is. And with all of my clients, before we start, I always have them track their food before me. If they don't already know or they don't already track their food, I always have them track for me to get a baseline because everybody's metabolism is different. And you kind of have to set that starting point, baseline, where they're at. That way, as a coach, I can build their plan from there.
Yeah. So for me, I have a fast metabolism. So I will start cutting on 1,800 calories. And so some other people, my same, weight and height and measurements might need to, that might be their off season of 1,800 calories.
Oh, yeah.
So it's so different. And
it's all relative.
Yeah.
It is. Okay, number 2.
Okay, I'll read number 2. So horror story number 2. I had a friend who suggested this local coach. Turns out he was just a personal trainer at a local gym, not really a prep coach. He said he could get me to the stage in 12 weeks, so I hired him. At 12 weeks out, he had me doing 2 to 3 hours of cardio 5 to 6 days a week. I ended up making it to the stage 12 weeks later, but my body had lost all its muscle from the amount of cardio I was doing. I was the leanest girl there, but ended up getting last place in almost everything, and my feedback was I needed more muscle mass and shape. It was sad because I had so much muscle prior to starting this prep.
Okay, I hear this one all the time. And like, let me just say disclaimer, I'm not trying to bash like local coaches at all, because you could find a really good local coach, right? But I feel like a lot of girls take that route of like somebody at their gym will like say, "Oh yeah, I'll prep you." And then it just ends up like they don't know anything about bikini, they don't know anything about what prep entails, and then it can turn into a disaster. So I've heard that a lot. Oh, that's sad. And honestly, yeah, that's sad, because she said that she was the leanest girl there and she placed last. And like, yes, you need to be lean for bikini, but there is such thing as being too lean for sure.
Yeah, so if you're a first-time competitor and you want to go the local route, would you suggest maybe interviewing the coach or?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I think a lot of first-time competitors fear working with a coach online because it's online. But I mean, I think it's absolutely doable. If you find the right online coach who's interactive, you can do it. But a lot of people are drawn to like a local coach because they want somebody who can see them in person. And like, I respect that. But yeah, absolutely interviewing. But you know, another good way to figure out if like you're actually hiring a good coach is ask their clients, like ask past clients, like get a word of mouth.
Yeah.
You know, find out how their other clients have enjoyed working with them, you know, what they may have liked, what they may have disliked. Like, that's always really important too. I think when hiring a coach, like, you know, even if they're not in local, if they're online, I think it's always a good idea to reach out to their, you know, maybe their past, but also their current clients to just get a feel and like a test of the waters of how that coach, you know, really runs things.
Yeah, and Lexie is so sweet. If you want to reach out to her, you can DM her on Instagram and you can get just a quick opinion of your plan. So, like, if you're out there thinking, oh my gosh, I have, like, my local coach gave me 2 hours of cardio, and you can reach out to Lexie and just say, hey, how does this sound? And she'll just give you her opinion, and that might be helpful.
Yeah, I'll always give an unbiased opinion, because I also understand as a coach myself, like, I'm not going to ever question another coach's approach. Like, I try not to, because it's like you just never know what the thought process is behind it. However, I mean, I've had girls before who have DM'd me just like asking me questions about, hey, is this normal? And I'm just like, the sad thing is a lot of people just don't know what's normal and what's not, especially as a first-time competitor. Some people think, okay, prep is super, like, it's supposed to be extreme, and it is to an extent, but if it costs you your long-term health and also, like, your sanity as a person, like, that, is it really worth it? You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
But, okay, should we read number 3?
Yes, let's read number 3.
All right. My previous coach would not allow for meal or food substitutions. I started with this coach because I heard she was great and got good results. I was a little hesitant of doing a prep with a meal plan due to the restrictive nature, but other friends said this coach was great and that meal plans are the way to go if you really want to be somebody on stage. So I trusted them and I hired this coach. The coach did not ask me what foods I liked, disliked, was allergic to, nor if I had any intolerances. I am really allergic to eggs and some nuts, and the first meal plan had both of those items listed. I reached out to her to let her know, and she substituted in items I cannot stomach, like tuna. When I reached out again, she simply said that I needed to be mentally stronger and eat what she was telling me to eat in order to succeed. I followed this plan with foods I didn't like for 8 weeks and cried during each meal. Oh my God. I wasn't able to finish my prep due to old disordered eating habits resurfacing.
Oh, that's sad.
That's honestly, so meal plans, and I don't want to go down the whole like rabbit hole of meal plans versus macros, because honestly I think both have their place. Some people prefer meal plans during a prep. Cool. However, I don't think that like the whole thing like where coaches will give some clients meal plans of like really boring basic food that the client hates. Like if you're crying while eating your meals, it doesn't have to be that way, because in my opinion there's nothing superior about like tilapia or tuna or chicken. Like they all have similar macronutrient profiles. So yeah, I think that if you have a coach that's giving you a very restrictive meal plan or cutting out certain food groups, always ask, hey, why'd you cut this out? Why is this food in my plan? And honestly, if they don't have an answer, a logical answer, there is probably not a point in, like, you could probably substitute something out for that food and be just okay.
Yeah, so it kind of goes back to what we were talking about at first. The coach should ask you a lot of questions.
Yeah.
When you first start on with a prep coach, it should be like a full interview of everything, like down to the nitty-gritty details.
It absolutely should, and that's a red flag. Like if the coach doesn't hop on the phone with you, red flag. But also if the coach is just not like asking questions, and you know, just the general questions, but if they're not asking you those, like, you have to ask yourself, how are they going to be able to put together a plan specific for me? And that's what you need in a contest prep. Like, you don't want a cookie cutter plan because it may work at the beginning of a prep, but, you know, when you get to peak week or really close to a show, things have to get specific. And if your coach doesn't know you and your body, the last couple weeks of prep could be kind of downhill.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people, it's very common to not be able to stomach tuna or tilapia. Like, I will not eat tilapia.
Oh, I love it.
I just won't. And so if a coach was like, no, you have to eat tilapia, there's nothing better about tilapia versus chicken or tuna.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I think, like, some coaches, like, some people assume that. And also, I've seen coaches on meal plans before that will, like, literally cut out whole food groups, like no fruit or no dairy, which, okay, I understand for some people dairy is an issue, but if it doesn't cause an issue for you, why do you need to cut it out?
Yeah.
You know, everybody has different intolerances, and it's one thing if you are intolerant to a food group, like, heck yeah, cut it out. But if you're not intolerant to it, why cut it out? Like, why make yourself suffer when you don't have to?
So red flag.
Red flag.
Okay, so the next one. This is our horror story number 4. We only have 3 more left, so pay attention. Okay. I had a coach who would get angry and drop the F-bomb if you tried to communicate outside of your check-in day. If I got sick or had a question about a protocol and it wasn't my check-in day, I had to wait up to 6 days before I could ask him about it. It was the most frustrating experience since one time I got food poisoning the morning after a check-in day. I tried to ask him how he'd like me to proceed with that day. He answered back that it wasn't my check-in day, so he wouldn't be answering this until it was my check-in day. So I proceeded with taking care of me while I was sick, how my last coach taught me. Come the following week's check-in, I let him know about that day went and what I did to get over the sickness. He basically did a voice memo scolding me for 2 minutes about how I effed up big time. That was my last check-in with him. Oh, poor girl.
That's sad. I don't know how I feel about the whole you can only communicate with me on your check-in day, especially as a prep client, because, like, when my girls are in their peak week, we're checking in daily. And, you know, I feel like with prep, you have to be so detail-oriented. And, like, you just never know what's going to come up, too, throughout the week. If something comes up, you should feel like you're able to reach out to your coach. I mean, obviously, you don't want to be texting them at, like, 11 p.m. at night. Probably that's a little boundary-wise. But, like, I feel like you shouldn't be afraid to reach out to your coach if it isn't your check-in day.
Yeah, and definitely for prep clients, there's a difference between a coach for a lifestyle client and a prep client.
Yeah.
And especially if you are a prep client, though, you have a lot. I mean, it is high maintenance. Like, you have a lot going on, and you should be able to reach out to them, especially if something came up like food poisoning.
Oh, for sure. And, like, yeah, I mean, that's also what you pay them for. I mean, you're not being high maintenance by asking for more communication than just your check-in day, right? Like, you're paying for the service, and yeah, I mean, to me, that just sounds like a lazy coach.
Yeah.
I'm being either a lazy coach or a coach who maybe potentially has too many clients and it can't manage all of them enough.
Yeah, it sounds like this coach has way too many clients and is putting everyone on a cookie cutter plan again.
That, or they're just lazy. I don't know, but that's sad. I'm sorry.
And okay, so one thing I want to talk about briefly is the whole cookie cutter plan. So a lot of bikini competitors do eat the same food, work out the same way, and a lot of them sound very similar. So sometimes people will think they're on a cookie cutter plan, but it is catered to them. You know, it's kind of everyone, it's a science to get you stage lean. So a lot of it will be the same, but it also needs to be catered to you and your metabolism.
Absolutely. And that's why I tell clients all the time, like, ask questions. Ask questions. You're not being annoying if you ask questions. You know, if you have a question about your plan, your protocol, why I did something, like, ask me a question, and I'll have, like, a rationale behind why I'm doing that. Now, if you're asking your coach a question and like, hey, why can't I eat this food or whatever, and they don't have an answer, chances are there's no reason, like, for that to be in place, if that makes sense, right? So, do we want to read number 5?
Okay, so we have 2 more left. I'm going to talk about some of my own stories really quick.
Yeah,
so
let's hear it.
One thing that I think is important is to take ownership over yourself, because if you have a coach that is telling you all of these crazy things, yes, you are paying them, but also take a step back and take some time to think, is this right? Like
Yeah.
we see a lot of people blaming these coaches, but it's you, and you are the one paying, yes, but you also have that ownership side of things where this might be a time to reach out to Lexie and think, hey, is this right? And yeah, shameless plug, but she won't charge you for this. So just reach out to Lexie and just say, hey, does this sound right?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've known other coaches that like offer that too. Like if if you're questioning your plan and you just want somebody's kind of like unbiased opinion, I don't see any harm in that, right? And like you're right, Karah, you have to take accountability as an athlete yourself. And if you hire a coach, you have to inform yourself too on these red flags. Yes, the coach is telling you to do something, but they're also not holding a knife over your head saying you have to do it. So if you suspect red flags in your protocol, or you just, sometimes when you have that gut feeling of like, something seems off, like you should probably listen to that gut and, look into things further. Ask questions, because at the end of the day, you can't blame just the coach. Like, yes, the coach may be at fault, but you're also the one choosing to do this yourself,
So I know the day before my first show, my coach gave me a little concoction to drink, and I had to like plug my nose, and I was gagging it down. And like the day before your show, okay, so I'm going to tell you what this magic concoction.
Let's hear it.
Okay, so it was 1 cup of hot water mixed with 3 tablespoons olive oil and 2 scoops, I don't know the milligrams, so I apologize on that, but 2 scoops of vitamin C powder, the like dry powder.
This sounds awful.
So that was the drink, and then you drink it down with 5 prunes. So this was supposed to make you have a poop in the morning. And it actually, I remember I did not poop before prejudging. I pooped after prejudging. So I was just like, it didn't even work. And I drank this I get the point of the fats, but to me, I was like, why can't I just have peanut butter?
Yeah, that is so funny. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I can't say I have a horror story like that. Thankfully, like that's a good thing. Yeah, that's awful. But you know what? If you go to a show, you see a lot of weird things. Like backstage, people doing weird things. Like I saw a girl chugging soy sauce one time, which like, I get it for sodium, but like I thought that was kind of weird. Yeah.
Okay, let's go on to number 5.
Okay, number 5. This is short. I had a coach who made my meal plan strictly protein starting 8 weeks out. I was allowed to eat 200 grams of protein a day with trace amounts of fats and carbs. I ended up getting extremely sick 5 weeks out and had to pull out of my prep. You know what? I actually just watched a video. My coach did a video on this on his YouTube and talking just about like meal plans that cut out carbs and fats. Like she was starting 8 weeks out. That's 8 weeks out without carbs and fats. And like there comes a point where in short term in prep, I think things can be somewhat justified. Like if it's very short term, right? But 8 weeks of like no carbs and no fats, like your body needs those. And honestly, your body needs fat to be able to digest foods properly and to absorb certain nutrients and minerals because a lot of those are fat soluble.
Yeah.
Meaning that there needs to be fat present in your diet to actually be able to digest those. So yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, starting at 8 weeks out with only protein, that would be so hard on your body. I feel like by the time you got to like 2 weeks out, you couldn't push through that.
That's a lot. I mean, that's a long time.
It's a long time.
I think when you hear about these extreme protocols, like I'm not justifying them by any means, but sometimes like if they're only for a week or so, okay, but like 8 weeks of that's just, I mean, that's a big red flag in my opinion.
Yeah, so it sounds like they're under 1,000 calories starting at 8 weeks out. And I mean, yeah, it is an extreme sport. So there might be like at 2 weeks out where you do have to do a week of super low calories, but that's just ridiculous at 8 weeks out, in my opinion.
No, I think so too. Coming from a coaching standpoint, like I just know that their prep is extreme, but there are healthier ways to prep. And you don't need to be stupid about prep. You don't need to put your long-term health at risk for one show. Like, in the moment, you may think that it's worth it, but it's not, believe me. Like, you don't want to be one of those people that competes one time and then spends the next 4 or 5 years recovering from that.
Yeah, that's a really good
just
point.
You don't. So
can I ask you, what is the lowest amount of calories do you feel comfortable as a coach putting a girl on?
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to ask about my personal. So it's honestly, I have thresholds. I don't really say, like, I can't, probably not a calorie range because it's going to depend upon the girl and her frame and whatnot. But I just very generally, when you get below 40 fats, I really don't like to get below that long term. Or with carbs, like below 100 carbs long term. When you're getting that low, I tend to be throwing in things like refeeds, checking in on the girls to make sure that, the biofeedback is okay and all of that. So those are just like my general thresholds.
And what do you mean by long term? How many weeks?
Oh, long term. I would say several, maybe like 3+.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. 3+ doesn't seem long term, I know. But I mean, I'm just all for being able to prep my girls in the healthiest way possible and still get them to look good on stage. And I've seen it done before. And some people may argue that, like, no, I have to go super extreme to get stage lean.
Yeah.
But I've seen it, like, not only within my clients and myself, but like my coaches' clients. Like, there are healthier ways to prep where you do not have to compromise your long-term health, and you can still look good on stage and potentially turn pro too. So, like, it's doable. Sometimes it just takes a little bit longer, and you have to, like, not give into that instant gratification of wanting to grind yourself to the ground, like, for that short term, like,
as hard as it is, if you wanted to start a prep and your metabolism and your body is not where it should be, if you are thinking, well, that's nice when you guys say it on the podcast, to start your prep high, but there's no way I would get stage lean, keeping it healthy. Well, maybe you need to reapproach your off season, right?
Absolutely. I have a lot of girls that come to me and want to start a prep, but they're only eating, let's say, like 1,400 calories for their maintenance. And, like, could you prep? Yeah, but it's going to be, like, a really tough prep if you're starting with your maintenance calories low, because as a coach, essentially, I have 2 tools in my toolbox to get you stage lean, and that's going to be pulling from your calorie maintenance, putting you in a deficit, and adding cardio in. So that's why you want to ideally start prep maintaining on a higher amount of food and lower amount of cardio, just to make it easier on yourself.
Okay, our last one. My last coach gave me my peak week protocol, and it had fats and carb numbers that were lower than what I was eating all through prep. When I asked him about it, he said, trust the process. After 2 days of peak week, I was starving. I was flatter than I had seen myself before, and I couldn't function. I went from consuming 120 grams of carbs and 30 grams of fat to peak week at barely anything. I had a couple of friends on the team who were doing the same show as me, and we started talking about how we were feeling with peak week. Turns out all 4 of us were on the exact same, down to the gram, peak week. Prior to peak week, one girl was at 50 grams of carb and the other was at 100 grams of carbs. So we were all different prior, but our peak weeks were all exactly the same. We started talking even more. Turns out all of our workout programs and protocols looked the same for every single athlete on peak week. The only thing he personally altered were our macros throughout prep. Wow.
So all their peak weeks were the same. Yeah, that's pretty... Yeah.
Like, that's a red flag to me if all of their peak weeks are exactly the same down to the gram, but then prior to that, they were all on different macros. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
Like the coach got really lazy for peak week, and, like, overwhelmed or something, and just gave them the same plan. That's not how it should be peak week. Like, okay, I understand every coach does things a little bit differently, right? So... but, like, what I do is with and I think a lot of coaches do this, is have their girls checking in daily peak week. And then, when you're checking in daily, depending on how you're looking, making the adjustments that way. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I always send a weekly tentative plan to my girls, but if they check in and let's say, like, whoa, weight dropped way too low, we're looking kind of flat or stringy, maybe I need to add in more food than I had planned, right? So, yeah, that kind of just sounds like the coach got lazy and, like, threw them all the same plan.
Yeah. So all of these stories, it almost sounds like asking more questions, with when you're hiring a prep coach.
Yeah. Prep is, a coach is like a serious thing because, you're putting essentially your health on the line of a coach, right? So I think you need to take the decision making process seriously. Ask questions. Do a little research on the coach beforehand. Potentially talk to their clients, maybe past clients. Look at their experience too. Especially if you're going to go into the bikini division. In my opinion, if you want to do well in the bikini division, you should have a coach who knows the bikini division and knows the sport, right? So look at that coach and see, are they going to shows? Do they seem to know what they're talking about when it comes to the bikini division? Things like that. And like sometimes too, as a bikini competitor, you can find a coach who has coached bodybuilders before, but never somebody from the bikini division. And that can be done, but I feel like you want to make sure you ask them a little bit more questions beforehand, because there's coaches that that can be a really good coach for like men, but maybe aren't the best coach for bikini.
Yeah. So is there any type of test the listeners could use, if they're interviewing a new coach, like something to ask? Or is there like a crucial question that every single coach should ask before hiring it on? Like, how do they know, like how does a new competitor especially, or someone who's a seasoned competitor, how do they know it's a good coach or not?
Yeah, so I think first off, you have to mesh with the coach personality-wise, right? Like if you just feel like your personalities clash and it's not going to be a good fit, that's part of it. But I think you just need to do your research beforehand and know what the coaching red flags are. I think I have a video on my Instagram about coaching red flags, like in my IGTVs when those used to be a thing. But also just like the main red flags that we kind of talked about today. If they're not hopping on a phone call with you, red flag. If they're not asking you like questions about you, your protocol, or your current protocol, all of that, red flag. I'm trying to think of other red flags. Oh, also for a first-time competitor, we don't need to go into depth on this topic, but like if as a first-time competitor, a coach is telling you have to be on PEDs to do well, red flag. I think you just have to do your research beforehand and knowing the red flags, and then, make sure when you are hiring a coach that you do hop on a phone call with them and you have your questions lined up that you want to ask them beforehand. That way you can kind of interview them in a way.
Yeah, so don't take picking your coach lightly. It kind of goes along with picking your suit. We love to have a consultation with you before you pick your suit, and we love to ask you questions, and that just helps us make a better suit for you. So it's kind of similar, we always tell girls, don't take your suit purchase lightly. Like really do your research, schedule a call. The same thing with coaching.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Absolutely. Absolutely. Don't hire a coach unless you've talked to them on the phone. I will say that's probably the best idea if you don't want to get a potential coaching horror story.
Yeah. So if you're interested in joining a team or working with a coach and they don't give you the time of day to reach out and call them, that's a red flag, because if they don't even have time to talk to you.
Yeah. I think that's important. Like my philosophy with my coaching is like, I love the quote, be somebody who makes everybody feel like a somebody. And that's truly like what I hope I do with my clients. Like I don't want them to ever feel like a number. I mean, I feel like I know all of them really well. But that's a topic for another podcast, but I love them all. But I think it's important that a coach gives you the time of day and at least hops on the phone with you and like makes you feel like you're not a number.
Yeah. And I love how you do your check-ins and you do your video check-ins, because it shows how, you're actually like spending that one-on-one time with the client, because a lot of these cookie cutter plans, if they were actually, looking at you and making a video, it kind of, that's something to look for in a coach, someone that will, be someone you can like see on a video talking.
Yeah,
I like that you do that.
I like it. Actually, my coach Paul Ravella, he started doing that years ago. I guess because like he would send email check-ins and like he didn't use a lot of punctuation, and I guess girls would like think he was mad when he wasn't. So he started doing the videos. So that's what I do. Like I'll just screen record myself and like sit down, have a little chat through the screen with my clients when I respond to their check-ins.
Yeah, I love that.
I love them.
Okay, so to recap, do your research on your coach and definitely reach out to Lexie. She would love to, give you a second opinion on your plan. If something doesn't sound right, she will do, and she's not going to charge you for that. But once you start asking question after question, then she might be like,
I'm not somebody, like I will answer a question honestly, and I'm not somebody who's going to like tell you, oh my gosh, no, like your coach is awful, you need to come to me. I'm not that type of person. I'll give you my honest opinion and say, yeah, that sounds like a red flag or not, but I'm never going to like tell you that it's a red flag and then say, oh, you need to come and work with me. Like that's not how I work. I'll give you an honest opinion, and then if you potentially wanted to come work with me, you could, but I'm never going to like put it out there.
It's not like we're not trying to plug her. Just Lexie is so kind, and she's like the sweetest person alive. So
you are too.
Oh, well, thank you.
That's why we get along so well.
Yeah. Lexie and I always joke like Lexie is my twin because, well, I have a twin, but we both love decaf coffee. We've got it right here. Oh, yeah, we've got it right here. And so many other things. We love oatmeal. We love Greek yogurt.
Literally, but like not just oatmeal. We love the same oatmeal brand and flavor, too.
And I have it like so much at my house. So we went to Hy-Vee, and Lexie's face lit up when she saw it. It was so cute. Yes. And what else do we love?
It's the little things that make me happy. We have like the same, this is weird, stevia, like the same brand and everything. And we used to make the same like oatmeal concoction.
Oh, our what do we call it?
Oatmeal pumpkin and yogurt. Yeah,
but then the ice cream, the fluff.
Oh my gosh,
we're both obsessed with protein fluff.
We just have so many similarities, and I love it. I love it. I love when like you do something weird and then you find out somebody else does it too. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm still trying to find someone that eats their greens. I haven't yet, but I'm still, if any of the listeners out there, it's okay. So stay with me here. I don't like the taste of the greens mixed with water. Okay, I don't know why. It just doesn't taste that great. So sometimes I'll just like eat them.
She was literally at the Arnold just spooning greens powder and eating it. And I mean, to each their own. I've done some weird things too, so no judgment.
But if anyone out there, please, I need a friend who has done this before. If
anybody eats their greens powder.
I know, I'm still waiting.
Respond to this
you know
live.
What? We should do a podcast about like the weird things that
yes, the
like
weirdest
we do.
Things. Oh my God.
Because we all do so weird things.
People would be like, what? Like, see, like for some of the things I eat. Oh, yeah.
Wait, let's hear something.
Oh,
I threw myself under the bus with my greens. You gotta go.
This is really weird. So I told Savannah this yesterday, and she didn't think it was weird, but like she's a competitor too. So recently, one thing I tried food wise, and guys, just please be open with me. It's good. I love zucchini, and zucchini it's like flavorless, right? So keep that in mind. So I did grated zucchini, and then I added a little bit of vanilla Greek yogurt. And then I added some vegan PE Science protein powder, like the chocolate, and kind of mixed it up, added a little bit of water. It was almost like brownie batter.
Oh, I would love that, actually.
Like, use your imagination. It's actually good. Like, before you're like, oh, Lexie, what? It's actually good because zucchini is flavorless. So you add, it's essentially like you get the texture of the zucchini, but then you get the taste of the Greek yogurt in the protein powder. It's solid.
Anything with Greek yogurt. Oh my gosh, I'm obsessed with Greek yogurt.
I love Greek yogurt. I do. But yeah, we should do a whole podcast about weird things we've done or eaten. Yeah.
Or done. I'm just like a weirdo. Oh my gosh.
I am too. It's all right. You got to embrace it.
Yeah. Well, anyways, I think
fun.
that wraps it up. Let us know what you think about this. And we would love to do this again with new stories. So if you have any coach horror stories, and, we do this not to be like shed negativity on people. We want to show like there's a healthier way to prep, and we want girls to, click with their coaches and have that great experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Everything you just said. Like, we're not trying to shed negativity. Like, honestly, I think this stuff is important to talk about because if it could potentially save somebody from a really awful prep, like, it's worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks so much for listening.
Yay. Thanks, guys.
See you next time.
Bye.